November 2024. It should have just been another month. But instead, I found myself holding my grandmother's frail hand, knowing it would be the last time. Her oxygen tank quietly hummed in the background, but at that moment, nothing else existed. The weight of her 83 years, filled with its challenges, experiences, and love, hung heavily in the air. Grief has a way of making the world stand still. But the world doesn't stop moving. A few days after her passing, I went back to school. A few friends casually asked, "Where were you last week?" When I told them about my grandmother's passing, I noticed their discomfort, awkward shuffling, and stuttering over their words. It was clear that they were trying to find the right words to comfort me, but didn't know how to do so. But I don't blame my friends. Their response was all too human and all too common. But that moment stuck with me. Why did they struggle to talk about loss? Why do we struggle to talk about something so common that will affect every single one of us in this room? No, everyone in the world. Today, I want to talk to you all about why grief is such a difficult conversation. More importantly, I want to show you how we can turn these uncomfortable moments into opportunities for genuine human connection, whether you're grieving or you're supporting someone who is. Now, my first experience with grief was when I was 7 years old. My best friend's father passed away. Now, my younger self processed this the only way I knew how. What does this mean for my dad? Would something happen to him too? Obviously, my mom assured me that he'd be fine, but that night sparked a deep pit in my stomach that I couldn't name at the time. Fear. So, for the next 6 months, I made it my mission to show up for my friend the only way I knew how. Sitting with them at recess, playing quietly. It was only years later that I learned that this was my way of being present. That brings me to my first point. Be there. Oftentimes, the best help we can give isn't advice, it's listening. Let them express their sadness, anger, or confusion without trying to fix anything, because honestly, you can't fix anything, but you can be there to support someone. Years later, I experienced grief firsthand when my tennis coach passed away during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. He was an older gentleman, and through my lessons, he took on a grandfatherly role to me, making his passing all the more difficult. I remember coming home each and every day to ask for updates on how he was doing. I always hoped for good news, but I didn't get any. One day, my parents sat me down on our living room sofa and broke the news. It was one of the most isolating experiences of my life because I never got the chance to say goodbye. One icy winter afternoon, I went to go visit his wife, or as we say in Telugu, my amama. I hesitated at the door, unsure if she'd even want to talk about him. But to my surprise, she opened the door and welcomed me in with open arms. We shared memories of my coach, like how when I got frustrated when I didn't hit the ball, he would always say, "Hey, come on, the sun will rise again tomorrow. Try again." As we shared more and more memories of my coach, I realized something. Talking about loss doesn't prolong pain. It creates a connection. That brings me to my second point. Have the courage to reach out. Oftentimes, we fear saying the wrong things, so we say nothing at all. But that can make the grief even lonelier. How do I know? Because I've been there. Some years ago, I had a close-knit friend group. The school year had just ended, so we decided we'd make a group chat for the summer. So for that summer, we played Game Pigeon, made fun of each other, and spammed so many text messages that it would single-handedly skyrocket our phone bills. Then, one of my friends transferred schools. I didn't think much of it at the time because I wasn't as close to them. I even missed their going away party because I had a conflict in my schedule. A few months passed, and school started again. While driving back home from school on a Friday night, I saw a police car sitting on a neighborhood street. Once again, I didn't think much of it. Days later in biology class, a friend came up to me to ask, "Were you friends with this person who transferred to another school over the summer?" I nodded. She hesitated, glancing around before whispering, "Look, don't tell anyone, but they died by suicide last week." Time stopped. I remembered this person as quiet and reserved, but not in a way that made me think they were suffering. And after it happened, my friends didn't even want to talk about it. We just moved on. But I wasn't okay. I was exhausted, frustrated, and weighed down by emotions I didn't know how to process. I was angry at my friends for not wanting to talk about it, at the pain my friend must have felt, but mostly at myself for not realizing their pain and reaching out. If there's something I've learned through all of this, it's this. Grief is messy, and self-blame only makes it harder to heal. So if you're grieving, please be kind to yourself. The stages of grief they always talk about, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, aren't a checklist. I spent months in anger. It took time, but eventually I learned to let my frustration go. Different days bring different emotions, and that's okay. But in the same vein, don't forget about yourself. As hard as it is, you need to acknowledge your grief, but not let it set you back, because you're the only person who can get yourself through this. If you're supporting someone, remember, your actions speak much louder than your words. Show up. Let them set the pace. It's okay not to have the right words, just a willingness to be there. Grief is inevitable. One day, all of us will experience it. But by breaking the silence around loss, we can ensure that no one has to face it alone. And on today, what would have been my grandmother's 84th birthday, I choose to honor her. Not with silence, but with understanding. Because of the damage grief can cause, I urge all of you into changing our reactions to grief. So I ask you, when you or a loved one faces grief, how will you respond? With discomfort and avoidance, or compassion and connection? In the end, grief isn't about forgetting. It's about honoring love in its purest form. Thank you.